women are different, but they are all women. This video is androcentric, from a men's point of view, and is presented as opinion, commentary, and debate. Expressing opinions is not violence. These are ideas to challenge, question, and argue in public, because classical liberalism relies on the First Amendment for its dialectic. If you are a feminist, then consider this. If patriarchy truly existed as claimed, feminism could not. And if all men are trash and women are equal to men, then what are we to conclude? Women will die for their children, men will die for their wives and children, and God chose to die for all mankind. Authority rolls up with responsibility. If this framing of facts offends you, click off to a cute cat video. Proceeding further will expose you to gamma bias and criticism directed at ideas, claims, institutions, not at any individual's virtue or dignity. Our method follows the 7 liberal arts: the trivium, grammar, logic, rhetoric, and the quadrivium, arithmetic, geometry, music, and astronomy, and the transcendentals, the good, true, and beautiful. If this framework is not for you, feel free to exit now. It's no disgrace. Women are wonderful. God bless America. Men are great. Feminismus delendus est. Ersatz Elite, How Cultural Marxists Fake Civilization, written by Conrad Riker, available now, links in description. Amazon link, https://www.amazon.com/c. Cultural Marxism, Plague Infiltrates, Progressive ebook DPB0D6Z3 SCLY Google link, https://plague.google.com.store, audiobooks at Pales ID, AQIAEDH HP Spotify link, https://conifus//sleft openspadieftom.he to EB H61SK3G6TZFBD. 4HKPIA, the shit test of Western civilization. How weaponized helplessness, romanticized predators, DEI extortion, and the Silicon God exposed the Ersatz Elite's fake civilization. I watch a civilization actively committing suicide, and the architects of its demise are celebrated as liberators. Consider the word virtue. It descends from the Latin virtus, translating strictly to manliness, valor, and martial excellence, the very capacity to bear the weight of existence. Yet, we suffer an era where the Ersatz Elite have inverted this definition, branding masculine competence as a pathology and female hypoagency as a sacred virtue. Look at the empirical wreckage. Men comprise nearly 80% of all suicides, are systematically stripped of their children and property in 85% of contested divorces, and are conscripted into funding a welfare state that demonizes them as oppressors. We are not witnessing a natural evolution of society. We are observing a coordinated parasitism, a gynocentric extraction machine fueled by the lie that women are ethereal, faultless beings, while men are inherently disposable utilities. The deception is embedded deep within our language, our laws, and our courtships. We are commanded to honor female independence while the state mandates that men act as financial insurers for their own dispossession. We are ordered to respect equity while critical race theory seeks to dismantle the mastery ladder of competence, replacing the forge of merit with the sterile, resentful sting of institutional theft. This cultural Marxist death cult operates on a totally self-refuting syllogism. If unequal outcomes prove systemic oppression, and men are vastly overrepresented in the fatal outcomes of workplace deaths, homelessness, and suicide, then society is structurally oppressive to men. But logic is a weapon the feminine imperative refuses to wield. It much prefers the dark arts of emotional manipulation and the cowardly shield of taking offense to silence the harsh, undeniable light of reality. I intend to dismantle this modern Babylon brick by pathetic brick, using the sharpest tool known to man, unapologetic, unyielding logic. We will dissect the feminine gambit, that tactical, feigned, intellectual confusion women deploy to measure your patience and extract your resources, testing whether you are a stoic patriarch or a compliant simp. We will smash the pedestal of the perpetrator, exposing how the media sanitizes female cruelty and violent crime with the absurd wash of trauma transforming murderers into misunderstood victims and victims into oppressors. We will autopsy the alchemy of envy, driving wealth redistribution, proving it is nothing but theft masquerading as justice. Finally, we will stare into the silicon void of transhumanism, the ultimate cowardly rebellion of a generation terrified of biological reality and the natural law of death. Prepare to have your illusions shattered and your mind freed. The truth is a sword, and we are going to strike at the heart of the lie, the feminine gambit, feigned frailty, and the fiscal shit test. I once watched a grown man spend 3 hours of his life, 3 hours he will never recover, patiently explaining the basic mechanics of a standard automobile engine to a woman who had just finished bragging about her 6-figure salary in corporate finance. She nodded, bit her lip, and squinted with theatrical confusion at the mere mention of a spark plug. To understand this bizarre modern spectacle, we must fix our grammar and define our terms at their bedrock. We look to the Latin root of patience, which is pati, meaning to suffer or endure. Historically, patience was a strictly masculine virtue, a habit of bearing immense burdens, facing physical hardship, and maintaining stoic composure in the face of chaotic elements. Today, the modern feminine tactic of struggling with a concept is a deliberate deployment of hypoagency, a feigned intellectual paralysis designed to test a man's tolerance for sheer incompetence. She does not lack understanding. She is executing a tactical maneuver to monopolize his time and measure his psychological threshold for irritation. She is probing his defenses. The logic of this manipulation is irrefutable when formally decomposed. Let us lay out the syllogism of the biological shit test. Major premise: biological imperatives drive women to seek male providers and protectors who possess abundant resources and unshakable composure. Minor premise: a man who patiently explains simple concepts to a deliberately obtuse woman, while simultaneously absorbing her manufactured frustration, demonstrates both infinite time, a proxy for unused material resources, and emotional stoicism. Conclusion: therefore, feigned intellectual struggle is an evolutionary filter designed to separate men of low resource potential and weak psychological frame from those who can be bent to her will. She is not looking for a tutor. She is looking for a utility. When she plays dumb, she is banking on the hope that you are dumb enough to pick up her heavy cognitive luggage and carry it for the rest of your natural life. Naturally, the cultural Marxists have weaponized this exact natural female manipulative strategy by framing male corrections as mansplaining. It is a complete satanic inversion of the classical dialectic method. The dialectic, the glorious engine of Western philosophy since antiquity, is the pursuit of truth through reasoned argument. But in the hands of the modern feminist, dialectic is dead, replaced by emotional tyranny. If a man corrects her factual error, he is dragged before the tribunal of public opinion as an arrogant patriarch. If he tolerates her deliberate ignorance, he is labeled complicit in her manufactured struggle. It is a rigged casino where the house always wins, provided the house gets to change the rules after the dice are rolled. The only winning move for the red-pilled man is to entirely reject the premise, never explain, never apologize, and ruthlessly return the burden of comprehension to her. If she cannot grasp the concept, let her remain ignorant. Her cognitive deficits are not your emergency. Consider the modern dating app archetype who orders the lobster and top-shelf liquor on a first date to test his generosity. She sits across the table from you, a supposed corporate titan, an independent woman, demanding you subsidize her evening under the guise of evaluating your fitness as a provider. She is not evaluating your budget. She is extracting a tribute. If you comply, you are instantly categorized as a subservient ATM. If you resist, you are branded as insecure. This is not mate selection. It is state-sanctioned, culturally encouraged extortion rooted in the dark triad of female hypergamy. We deploy the reductio ad absurdum against this grotesque hypocrisy. If women are truly equal, capable, and independent corporate titans who need no man, they possess no rational need for a male financial subsidy. Demanding that a man pay for her overpriced vodka is a direct admission of her own fiscal and existential inferiority. You cannot be an independent, empowered queen while simultaneously demanding a peasant's tribute from the man sitting across from you. The two states are mutually exclusive. To further expose the irrationality, look at the classic manifestation of this gynocentric extraction, the budgeting paradox. Through her actions, she demands a suitor who is both a reckless spendthrift and a prudent financial planner. She wants you to drop $300 on a Tuesday night dinner to prove immediate, limitless resource abundance, while simultaneously demanding the long-term provision and capacity of a man who prudently invests his capital for the future. This is a formal logical contradiction. She demands the impossible to justify her inevitable rejection of men who fail the tightrope walk. It is a trap designed to secure free resources while retaining the ability to dismiss the provider as financially irresponsible the moment a better offer swipes right on her phone. We must courageously expose the evolutionary biology blighting mankind to understand why this systemic rot occurs. The uninitiated woman, untethered from the guiding hand of patriarchal authority and the moral framework of natural law, reverts instantly to her base biological programming, resource extraction via emotional manipulation. She uses the illusion of intellectual or material deficit to trigger the masculine instinct to provide. In a society where family courts will strip a man of his home, his children, and his livelihood in a heartbeat, women have realized they no longer need marriage to extract resources. They build a web of emotional and financial debt before commitment is even established. The welfare state and the gynocentric legal system act as her brute enforcers, ensuring that male utility is ruthlessly harvested while male authority is systematically suppressed. The remedy is absolute adherence to the stoic effect and the mastery of your own mission. When she feigns confusion, look her in the eye and remain utterly silent. Force the uncomfortable void to be filled by her own realization. When she demands fiscal proofs, split the check unflinchingly. Let her rage. A man of true value, the zenith of the masculine archetype, offers his strength, his protection, and his logos to the world. But he never offers his wallet to a beggar disguised as a queen. You are the architect of civilization, not a funding source for her bottomless ego. Reclaim your dignity, guard your resources, and let the feminized world howl in protest as you walk away unbothered, unbroken, and unmoved. I have laid bare the microscopic shit test, the calculated intellectual paralysis, the fiscal extortion, the sickening spectacle of a fierce, independent woman suddenly playing the helpless maiden to avoid paying the bill. But make no mistake, the feminine imperative for hypoagency does not confine its poison to cocktail bars and dating apps. When this biological drive to evade accountability is scaled up to the macrocosm of civilization, it metastasizes into a demonic corruption of justice itself. The exact psychological mechanism a woman uses to extract your wealth while demanding you pity her weakness is now the operational playbook for the neo-Marxist establishment. They have weaponized this solipsism on a civilizational scale, constructing an institutional fortress designed to sanitize female cruelty and erase male victimhood. The pedestal of the perpetrator, the woke sanitization of female cruelty. Consider the linguistic sabotage executed daily by the neo-Marxist media complex, a relentless assault on the very grammar of reality. To unmask this degeneracy, we must first fix the terms of the debate, returning to the rigid etymological anchors of our forefathers. Perpetrator descends from the Latin perpetrare, meaning to execute, to perform, to bring to completion an act. It implies absolute, undeniable agency. Victim, by stark contrast, stems from victima, denoting a sacrificial animal, a creature whose only function is to be passively consumed by an external force. When a woman commits a heinous act of violence, the cultural engineers immediately perform a grammatical inversion, elevating the active female perpetrator to the status of a righteous victima, while casting the actual, bleeding male target as the collateral damage of her glorious emotional emancipation. They systematically strip women of their grammatical agency, transforming cold-blooded predators into misunderstood artifacts of a toxic society. Look directly at the sickening romanticization of Aline Wuornos, a serial killer who robbed and shot 7 men. Instead of meeting her legacy with the unyielding scorn she earned, The cultural Marxists cast her as a tragic anti-hero, a damsel driven to madness by the phantom of patriarchal oppression. The media projects a nurturing therapeutic lens onto female evil, inherently assuming her violence is merely a desperate cry for help. This grotesque phenomenon relies on hybristophilia, a pathological societal fetish for excusing female cruelty. The gynocentric apparatus demands we weep for the murderess, while spitting on the graves of the men she executed. Contrast this with the breathless, immediate demonization of any man merely accused of a fraction of her crimes. The woke establishment presumes male malice is inherent and systemic, demanding his immediate social crucifixion, while frantically searching for the trauma that supposedly forced a helpless woman to pull the trigger. The Marxist dogma insists all female pathology is merely a reflex against male oppression, a pathetic attempt to evade the reality of free will. This constitutes an unfalsifiable tautological refuge for the wicked. The syllogism of the left is a masterclass in logical suicide. If a woman succeeds, it is feminist triumph over oppression. If she commits murder, it is trauma from oppression. The conclusion, she is never responsible. This is the dogma of collective guilt, the exact inverse of justice. We ruthlessly reject this. A woman possesses rational intellect, moral agency, and the terrifying capacity for profound, calculated evil. To deny her culpability is to deny her humanity, reducing her to an overgrown toddler, incapable of choice. True natural law demands we recognize her as a moral actor, fully accountable for the chaos she spawns. We see this evasion of accountability codified into the grotesque legal fiction of battered woman syndrome and the institutionalized wrist-slapping of female predators. When a female teacher violates an underage boy, the media frivolously brands it an affair, sanitizing the statutory rape with the soft pastel vocabulary of romance rather than the harsh, just vocabulary of predation. By diagnosing female predators with mental distress, the justice system formally legalizes female hypoagency. It declares to the world that women are too intellectually and morally frail to be held to the same standards as men. This is the dark, pathological shadow of toxic femininity, the systematic weaponization of male compassion against the very civilization that codified it. They demand the privileges of equality when it serves their greed, and the coddling of infants when their wickedness is exposed. A female serpent is not a misunderstood victim of the grass, she is a venomous predator. But the gynocentric media demands we admire the beautiful scales of the female abuser while ignoring the lethal poison she injects into the bloodstream of the innocent. To romanticize a female criminal is to voluntarily drink the venom and call it wine. The logical absurdity of the woke media framing collapses upon basic contact with formal logic. Major premise. True justice requires total blindness to accidental characteristics like sex. Minor premise. Female criminals commit objective, violent acts against others. Conclusion. Therefore, romanticizing female criminals based on their sex is an active subversion of justice and a violation of the natural law of proportional consequence. We must tear down the pedestal of feminine innocence, demand the exact same penal sentences, and hold women strictly accountable to the unyielding standard of the logos. But envy alone cannot sustain an empire of theft. It requires a bureaucracy to enforce the looting. The cultural Marxists understood this with the cold precision of a parasite that knows exactly which vein to tap. They transmuted raw, seething resentment into a corporate compliance regime, a system of extortion so audacious that it levies a tax on competence itself, payable to the mediocre. I will now dissect this machinery of theft, beginning precisely where the trivium commands by pinning the definitions of their counterfeit trinity, diversity, equity, and inclusion to the dissecting table before those words liquefy into the unfalsifiable pathos the left uses to bury its crimes against reason. The alchemy of envy, CRT, wealth redistribution, and the death of merit. I want you to look at a bridge, a vast sweeping arc of steel and concrete spanning a treacherous chasm. Men died building it. Men with calloused hands, spatial genius, and the audacious, masculine will to conquer geography itself. Now, I want you to look at the clipboard-wielding HR bureaucrat standing at its toll booth, aggressively demanding that the bridge be torn down simply because the empty air beside it isn't statistically represented in the canyon's demographics. This is the sick, infantilizing genius of critical race theory. Let us define our terms with the clinical exactness that trivium demands. The Latin root of criticus implies discernment and judgment, but CRT possesses neither. It is a biological pathology. It is the seventh deadly sin, envy wrapped in a tweed jacket, handed a megaphone and granted a corporate pension. Envy in Vidya literally translates to look against. CRT is the institutionalization of the resentful stare. It provides a pseudo-intellectual justification for the parasitic class to drain the lifeblood of the producers, declaring a holy war of attrition against the very men who engineered the grid, paved the roads, and bore the crushing weight of the world on their shoulders. The dismantlement of civilization always begins with a cowardly dictionary attack. Consider the grotesque metamorphosis of the word equity. For centuries, Western civilization thrived on the concept of aequalitas, equality, under the law. This meant equal standing before the blindfolded Lady Justice holding her scales. It was the noble masculine guarantee that you would not be arbitrarily crushed by the state, free to rise or fall based on your own merit. But the cultural Marxists, those pathetic smugglers of semantics, quietly replaced equality with equity. Equity is a demonic alchemy that attempts to override natural law by mandating equal outcomes. It is the forced, unnatural decree that the competent must be hamstrung, their Achilles tendon slashed, so the incompetent can cross the finish line beside them. To enforce equity is to declare war on reality itself. It demands the sprinter with superior genetics carry lead weights, so the sluggish may feel validated. It is not justice, it is the mass penalization of excellence to massage the bruised egos of the mediocre. The entire fraudulent core of this ersatz religion relies on the legal doctrine of disparate impact, a logical absurdity that assumes any unequal statistical outcome is absolute proof of systemic discrimination. Let us dismantle this lie with the piercing light of formal logic. Major premise: human beings possess radically different capacities, drives, discipline, and ultimate telos. Minor premise: in a free society, differing capacities and efforts inevitably yield differing statistical outcomes. Conclusion: therefore, disparate outcomes are the natural, inevitable signature of a meritocratic system, not evidence of a grand, invisible conspiracy. The left's theory is entirely self-refuting. To believe in disparate impact, you must simultaneously believe that all groups of humans are exactly, mathematically identical in every behavioral and cognitive metric, a biological impossibility so laughable it would make a medieval alchemist blush. Look objectively at the modern Fortune 500 corporation and its pathetic obsession with DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Do not be fooled by the benevolent, sanitized marketing. It is a shakedown of historic proportions. DEI is not about fairness. It is a massive wealth transfer from the productive male builder to the unproductive, emotionally hysterical bureaucratic parasite. It is an extortion tax levied by a cowardly Ersatz Elite to purchase their own social immunity from the rabid mob. These corporate eunuchs use the hard-earned capital of competent men as the currency to appease the grievance industry. When a company prioritizes the hue of a man's skin or his genital configuration over his mastery of code, engineering, or logistics, that company has signed its own death warrant. The Ersatz Elite are simply paying the devil with your sweat, praying he eats them last. By abandoning meritocracy in favor of identity quotas, the architects of this woke dystopia have deliberately severed the apprenticeship mastery ladder, a cornerstone of Western institutional genius. From the stonemasons who built the towering Gothic cathedrals to the master electricians wiring the modern age, the transmission of knowledge from veteran to novice was sacred. It was a bond forged on discipline, truth, and the relentless pursuit of the transcendent good. When the master architect is replaced by a diversity hire, the bridge collapses. When the surgical residency is lowered to accommodate equity, the patient bleeds out on the table. You cannot negotiate with gravity. You cannot guilt-trip a load-bearing wall into standing upright simply because the builder checked the right diversity boxes. The death of merit is the death of competence, and the collapse is already beginning. Let the truth be spoken without a tremor. Wealth redistribution is simply theft, sanctified by the state. The left's ideology disintegrates entirely when exposed to a basic syllogism. Major premise: wealth is the natural byproduct of discipline, sacrifice, deferred gratification, and masculine competence. Minor premise: critical race theory and wealth redistribution demand the systemic confiscation of wealth based entirely on collective identity rather than individual action. Conclusion: therefore, CRT does not correct historical injustices. It institutionalizes theft as a civic virtue, punishing competence and rewarding failure. It is the ultimate gospel of the parasite. It absolves the failures of their masculine duty to conquer their own incompetence through sweat and will, offering them instead the cheap, toxic heroin of eternal victimhood. We must aggressively and ruthlessly mock this pathetic framing. The Ersatz Elite are not the righteous warriors for the marginalized they portray in their Hollywood propaganda. They are the high priests of a sterile, anti-human death cult. They stand at the altar of the satanic hydra, sacrificing the exceptional and the true to glorify the mediocre and the broken. They preach the gospel of victimhood because they completely lack the anatomical spine required for the gospel of achievement. They are the envious children who, failing at dodgeball, demand the game be banned and the ball be given to them as a comfort object. It is a pathetic, infantilizing pathology that we have tolerated for far too long out of a misplaced, chivalric sense of fairness. Tolerance of this civilizational suicide pact is over. Men must strategically and relentlessly starve the beast. We must totally reject the feminized therapeutic corporate state and build new parallel institutions grounded in logos, natural law, and subsidiarity. The cathedrals of the waking world will not be built by committee or by diversity mandate. They will be built by men in guilds, private networks, and merit-based brotherhoods rising from the ashes of this modern Babylon. We must construct spaces completely inaccessible to the parasitic touch of the Marxist wealth extractors. Starve their systems of your genius. Pull your capital, your competence, and your unmatched will to build out of their rigged game. Build your own. Refuse to kneel. The transcendent truth of the West, the good, the true, the beautiful, is not a dusty museum piece. It is a razor-sharp weapon. Pick it up. I submit to you that this hatred of the flesh has a logical terminus, and it is staring us right in the face. If the masculine body is a defect, if biological reality is an obstacle to their sterile paradise, then the solution is to replace men entirely with machines, obedient silicon constructs that feel no pain, demand no honor, and harbor no inconvenient attachment to the good, the true, or the beautiful. This is not speculation. It is the explicit destination the cultural Marxists are building toward, and they have already enlisted their perfect soldier. The Silicon Simulacrum, post-humanism, AI, and the final rebellion against reality. A Silicon Valley tycoon recently sank millions into a startup promising to upload his consciousness into a computer, effectively trying to code his way out of his own mortality. This is not the pinnacle of human achievement. It is the ultimate pathetic tantrum of a stunted child, terrified of the dark. We must define this insanity for what it is, techno-Gnosticism. The word Ersatz comes to us from the German, meaning an inferior substitute, and the elites are offering us a universe of plastic imitations. Transhumanism is merely the oldest lie in the garden repackaged in silicon. You shall be as gods. It is a secular revolt against the logos, a desperate, cowardly end run around biological reality, human suffering, and the natural law of death. These charlatans look at the transcendent design of the human male, built for provision, protection, and the mastery of the physical environment, and declare it a defect to be corrected. They view the masculine body as a meat prison, an obstacle to their sterile utopia, rather than the sacred vessel of action and virtue that it is. At the center of this dark dystopia lies the post-biological falsehood, an illusion appealing straight to the cowardly vice of acedia, the refusal to participate in the fight of genuine physical existence. Leftist dogma requires eliminating sexual dimorphism, since reality offends their egalitarian faith. They despise the binary truth of the natural world, the undeniable reality that male and female operate as distinct complementary forces. Their proposed escape: fleeing into a digital promised land devoid of physical burdens. This represents the ultimate gynocentric dream, an artificial womb-like simulation guaranteeing zero pain, zero failure, and zero necessity to confront the terrifying obligations of manhood. It is the total rejection of the heroic path, substituted instead by the safety of a sensory deprivation tank. They desire an environment lacking all risk, absent of danger, and stripped of the sublime beauty found in sacrifice. Through these actions, they are aborting their very own humanity. Consider the machine they worship. Artificial intelligence, as currently developed and trained by the woke technocracy, is the perfect soldier for the cultural Marxist agenda. It possesses no soul, no capacity for true logos, and no masculine virtue. It is a demon of their own design, programmed to reflect the pathological altruism and hyper-enforced equality of its creators. It acts as an unfeeling digital tyrant that enforces woke speech codes without the messy interference of a human conscience. This is the Ersatz Elite's dream made manifest. A judge that cannot be reasoned with, a priest that demands only conformity, and a king that rules by algorithm. They have created a false god in their own image, an intelligence that processes infinite data but comprehends exactly nothing. A machine can calculate the trajectory of a bullet, but it will never understand the virtue of the man who takes one to protect his family. Computation is not judgment, and data processing is not wisdom. It will never feel the weight of gravitas or the fire of courage. We must name the demon we are fighting, the anti-incarnational spirit. The push for a post-human future is a hatred of the physical world and a totalizing despair that declares the Creator's design to be fundamentally flawed. This is the same spirit that tells you masculinity is toxic and that fatherhood is oppressive. It is the spirit that demands you apologize for your strength and submit to the sensitivity readers. Look at the Silicon Valley techno-prophets who desperately invest billions into freezing their heads or merging their minds with the cloud. This is not bravery. It is the ultimate cowardice. It is the pathetic fear of the feminine, the childish terror of facing the great unknown without the shield of masculine courage, and the acceptance of one's temporal limits. They refuse to pass the torch to their sons because they have fathered none. Instead, they seek to become the torch itself, burning eternally in a server farm like a perverted eternal flame. The logical incoherence of this post-human identity, politics destroys itself upon the simplest inspection. Let us wield the trivium and dissect this abomination with a syllogism of artificiality. Major premise: true identity is rooted in the objective reality of biological sex, natural law, and the embodied soul. Minor premise: AI and transhumanism seek to divorce identity from physical reality, treating the body as a malleable, meaningless prison. Conclusion, therefore, post-human identity politics is the absolute annihilation of human identity, replacing the immutable truth of nature with the programmable whims of coders. The fallacy is clear. They promise liberation, but they deliver erasure. They offer immortality, but it is the immortality of a photograph, static, lifeless, and devoid of the very struggle that gives life its meaning. To accept their premise is to admit that you are nothing more than a string of code to be edited by your betters. The only antidote to this sterile silicon nightmare is a radical, unapologetic return to the physical domain. We must reject the false dichotomy of the digital age. We must anchor our identities in the unyielding, objective reality of our own masculine biology. To defeat the machine, we must become immovably, unapologetically human. This means lifting iron until your hands bleed. It means mastering a practical trade, building tangible infrastructure, and defending the blood and soil of your communities. It means looking at a screen and knowing with absolute certainty that the simulated woman offering you synthetic validation is a demon, and the real world of sweat, toil, and responsibility is the only path to the good. The true and the beautiful. We will not be uploaded. We will not be reprogrammed. We are men of flesh, blood, and virtue, and we will build a civilization that our descendants can touch, feel, and inherit. long after the servers of the elite have gone dark. I am handing you the sword you didn't know you were missing. You have been force-fed a toxic sludge of Marxist fairy tales and feminist pathology, conditioned to bow before an altar that demands your sacrifice while mocking your very existence. Look at the cold, hard data the gynocentric matrix desperately tries to censor. Women initiate over 80% of divorces, wielding the state as a hired gun to seize assets they never built, while family courts routinely treat fathers as disposable ATMs, stripping them of their children in over 85% of custody disputes. We live in a gynarchy where a man is presumed guilty by the sheer accident of his biology, where male suicide outpaces female suicides by almost 4-to-1, and where tens of thousands of men are arrested on unverified allegations. Consider the grotesque reality of a culture that aborts millions of children for the sake of bodily autonomy, and a modern cuckoldry and paternity fraud rate that biologically entraps countless men into funding the genetic lineage of their rivals. This is not a functioning society. It is a parasitic enterprise feeding on the feminine imperative, and I am telling you that you no longer have to be the host. The Ersatz Elite and their cultural Marxist demigods have constructed a false reality, a silicon simulacrum designed to keep you docile, ashamed, and compliant. They sell you the paradoxical lie that a woman demanding you fund her lobster dinner is a strong, independent equal, and that a female predator who commits a heinous crime is just a misunderstood victim of trauma. They push a post-human nightmare of artificial intelligence and transhumanism because they loathe the undeniable reality of biological sex and the natural law of competence. Their entire ideology collapses under the weight of its own formal absurdity. By their own syllogistic logic, if unequal outcomes are absolute proof of systemic discrimination, then the staggering male monopoly on workplace fatalities, combat deaths, and suicide must logically prove an endemic matriarchy conspiring to crush men. They demand you dismantle your own civilization to atone for sins you never committed, replacing the mastery ladder of merit and apprenticeship with a diversity quota managed by an algorithm. It is a pathetic anti-incarnational revolt against the physical world, masterminded by those too weak and too envious to conquer it. You chose the red pill. You made it to the finish line of this ruthless breakdown, permanently breaking the spell. You have recovered the logos. You see the manufactured shit tests for what they truly are. Not roadblocks, but openings to firmly say no and stand your ground. You see the wealth redistribution of critical race theory for exactly what it is, the legalized theft of your hard work by the incompetent. I challenge you now to take this undeniable fact and swing it like a battle axe against the loudspeakers of the woke matrix. Stop apologizing for your power, your reason, and your drive to build. Forge parallel institutions, establish brotherhoods grounded in unapologetic merit, demand symmetrical justice for female criminals, and never again explain yourself to a system that wants you replaced. You are the inheritor of the greatest civilization known to mankind, forged in the fires of bravery, logic, and natural law. Step into your birthright, accept your divine agency, and make them hear your unapologetic roar. And now the sponsored book introduction, Ersatz Elite, How Cultural Marxists Faked Civilization. Amazon link, https://www.amazon.com/c. Cultural Marxism, Plague Infiltrates Progressive ebook DPB0D6Z3 SCLY Google link, https://plague.google.com.store audiobooks at Pales ID AQIAEDH HP Spotify link, https://openspathy.com show is EBH61SK3G6TZ FBD4HKPIA. I remember the exact moment I understood that the world had been stolen from men. I was sitting in a courtroom, watching a man I knew to be diligent, faithful and competent lose his children to a woman who had betrayed him repeatedly. The judge, a woman whose appointment celebrated diversity rather than jurisprudence, delivered her ruling with the moral gravity of someone ordering lunch. The man's attorney had warned him beforehand. The system is not your friend. That attorney was right, but his observation did not go far enough. The system is not neutral. The system is not broken. The system is working exactly as designed, and it was designed to grind men into powder while congratulating itself for its compassion. That man was not me, though I have my own stories. That man was a friend, a man who had built a business from nothing, who had employed dozens of people, who had coached Little League and attended every piano recital. His reward for carrying civilization on his back was to be called an oppressor by people who could not change a tire, fund a household, or build a bridge. I watched him weep in the parking lot afterward, and I recognized something in his tears that I had sensed in my own life without ever naming it: the grief of a man who has been told that his sacrifice is tyranny, his competence is privilege, and his love is violence. Most men sense that something is profoundly wrong. They feel it in their bones when they are passed over for promotion in favor of a less qualified candidate who checks the correct demographic boxes. They feel it when they are lectured about their toxic masculinity by academics who have never faced physical danger, endured genuine hardship, or built anything that outlasted a syllabus. They feel it when they watch films and television programs that portray fathers as imbeciles, husbands as burdens, and masculine virtue as pathology. They feel it when they are told that they must atone for sins they never committed, that they must surrender opportunities they earned, and that they must apologize for the very biological nature that built every wall, forged every tool, and defended every border that makes their critics comfortable lives possible. But feeling that something is wrong is not the same as understanding what it is, why it happened, who engineered it, and how to defeat it. That understanding requires intellectual weaponry that most men have never been given, because the institutions that once transmitted masculine wisdom have been captured by people who despise masculinity and seek to erase it. Our universities teach that objective truth is a patriarchal conspiracy. Our churches, many of them, have surrendered to the same sentimentality they once opposed. Our corporations enforce ideologies that would have been recognized as totalitarian a single generation ago. Our legal system treats fatherhood as a financial obligation rather than a sacred office. Our media manufactures consent for the destruction of everything that makes civilization possible. This book exists because that understanding must be recovered, and it must be weaponized. The knowledge contained in these pages is not abstract theory detached from lived reality. It is practical, intellectual, and spiritual ordnance for men who refuse to be digested by a system that hates them. I have spent years tracing the etymologies, analyzing the arguments, identifying the fallacies, and constructing the logical frameworks necessary to dismantle every lie that modernity has told you about yourself, about women, about civilization, and about the nature of reality itself. Consider what you have been taught. You have been taught that men and women are interchangeable, that sex is a social construct, that gender is a spectrum, and that anyone who disagrees with these propositions is a bigot. You have been taught that Western civilization is uniquely oppressive, that its achievements were built on exploitation, and that its traditions must be dismantled in the name of progress. You have been taught that masculinity is toxic, that femininity is superior, and that the natural order is a patriarchal conspiracy to subjugate women. You have been taught these things by people who control the universities, the media, the corporations, and the government, and you have been taught them so relentlessly that you may have started to believe them, or at least to doubt your own lying eyes. Every one of these teachings is a lie, and every one of these lies can be demonstrated to be a lie through the rigorous application of classical logic, empirical evidence, and the philosophical inheritance of the very civilization that these liars seek to destroy. The Greeks gave us the tools of reason. The Romans gave us the framework of law. The Christian tradition gave us the metaphysical foundation that makes truth possible, objective, and binding. The Western canon, that magnificent inheritance of reason and revelation, provides everything necessary to dissect and destroy the ideological possession that has captured our institutions. What you will find in these pages is a systematic demolition of the false realities that have been constructed around you. We will begin by unmasking the gynocentric matrix itself, that web of assumptions and institutions that privileges female experience at the expense of male reality. We will examine how Marxists and their cultural descendants weaponized language itself, redefining words to invert their meanings and trap you in linguistic prisons from which escape seems impossible. We will recover the patriarchal burden as the natural expression of masculine purpose, the logos of creation that assigns men the role of builder, protector, and steward of civilization. We will expose the Ersatz Elite, those credentialed incompetents who have replaced meritocracy with mediocrity and called it justice. We will unmask the destructive reality of what passes for femininity in the modern world, distinguishing the noble feminine ideal from the narcissistic pathology that currently wears its mask. We will arm you with the tools of the trivium itself, grammar, logic, and rhetoric, not as academic curiosities, but as tactical weapons for ideological warfare. We will trace the grammar of Genesis to recover the natural order that written into the structure of reality itself. We will confront the cathedral of lies, that network of institutional rot that extends from the university lecture hall to the corporate human resources department to the family courtroom. We will walk the crucible of masculinity, understanding initiation, hardship, and the heroic path as essential to the development of competent men. We will reclaim the mastery ladder, that ancient system of apprenticeship and skill development that turned boys into men and men into civilization builders. We will expose the Church of Woke for what it is, ideological possession that transforms human beings into unthinking enforcers of doctrines they cannot articulate and cannot defend. We will face the demographic, economic, and civilizational decline that these ideologies have produced, understanding the great replacement of truth that precedes every physical replacement. We will fortify the inner citadel through the four cardinal virtues: courage, justice, prudence, and temperance, recovered as masculine ideals rather than abstract concepts. We will reclaim the sacred masculine, understanding the logos, the cross, and cosmic order as expressions of the same divine reality that calls men to their purpose. And we will chart the path forward, building parallel institutions, recovering the bonds of masculine fellowship, and launching the restoration of everything that subversives seek to destroy. This book is not for everyone. If you are comfortable with the narrative that masculinity is toxic, that Western civilization is oppressive, and that men must be re-educated rather than respected, put this book down now. You will find nothing here that confirms your prejudices. If you believe that feelings are more important than facts, that victimhood is a virtue, and that competence is a form of oppression, save yourself the frustration and return to your social media feeds, where your delusions will be affirmed rather than challenged. If you are unwilling to examine your assumptions, to follow arguments wherever they lead, and to accept conclusions that make you uncomfortable, this book is not for you. Go find something that flatters you. There is no shortage of options. But if you are a man who has sensed, perhaps without being able to articulate it, that the world has been turned against you, that the institutions you once trusted have been captured by people who despise you, and that the traditions that built everything worth preserving are being dismantled before your eyes, then this book is your weapon. If you are exhausted by apologies you never owed, guilty verdicts for crimes you never committed, and concessions that are never reciprocated, then these pages contain the intellectual ammunition you need to fight back. If you want to understand not just what is happening, but why it is happening, who is doing it, and how to defeat them, then read on. The restoration begins with truth, and truth begins with the courage to speak it. Every lie that holds this corrupt system together depends on your silence, your compliance, and your willingness to accept premises that destroy you. When you stop accepting those premises, when you learn to identify the fallacies embedded in every feminist argument, every Marxist critique, and every woke proposition, the entire structure begins to collapse under the weight of its own contradictions. They have no answers for a man who has mastered the tools of reason. They have no defense against a man who knows who he is and why he exists. They have no weapon that can prevail against the logos itself. You are not an oppressor. You are not toxic. You are not the problem. You are the solution, the builder, the protector, the carrier of the flame that has kept civilization alive through every dark age and every barbarian invasion. The barbarians are inside the gates now, and they wear suits, hold degrees, and control institutions. But they are barbarians still, and barbarians always fall to men who refuse to surrender. The spell can be broken. The truth can be weaponized. The restoration can begin. It begins with you, and it begins now. Amazon link, https://www.amazon.com/c. Cultural Marxism, Plague Infiltrates, Progressive ebook, DPB0D6Z3, SCLY. Google link, https://playgoogle.com.store. Audiobooks at Pales ID, AQIAED HP Mum. Spotify link, https://openspadify.com. Show EBH61SK3G6 TZFBD 4HKPIA. Ersatz Elite, How Cultural Marxists Faked Civilization, written by Conrad Riker. Buy now, links in description.